Hello, Nick. It's very nice to have you here today.
Hey, Debbie. Nice to see you too.
Yeah, you and I quite often talk about well-being and things that are new and coming into the market and how the world is evolving and how employment is evolving. And I would like you to sort of share with our wider audience some of the new approaches in well-being and thinking that you are seeing that are coming in that employers need to be considering.
Yeah, thanks, Debbie. I always enjoy our chats from that perspective because I think we go into lots of different places with it, and you know how passionate I am about well-being. I guess new innovations, new approaches, new solutions are coming into the market all the time, and therein lies one of the biggest challenges I think for clients at the moment and for organisations looking to address the well-being issues within their business or start to address for the first time those well-being issues. And frankly, some of that is the noise that sits around the space at the moment. There are so many opportunities to investigate that application, that solution, that service. You can look at it through the lens of reactionary well-being. You can look at it through the lens of preventative well-being. There's lots of different ways, and the interpretation of that I always find really interesting. But I do think there's an opportunity there for organizations to use this moment, given everything we're going through with COVID, to really reevaluate what it is they're trying to achieve and therefore plan out how that starts to look in the future. And for me, I think that if I was looking at our own approach today, or indeed advising organizations in the reward and wellbeing space, I would be thinking about how we aggregate so that it's not about multiple point solutions. I mean, if you just think about the breadth of solutions and the location those things sit in today, whether it's in a benefits management system, an internal repository like a SharePoint or an intranet site, all the way through to the free services that exist that sit around the insurance industry, so the virtual GPs and the EAPs and these things, and then all the way through to this amazing plethora of apps we have in the market. There's a danger of overload for the employee. And that's who we can't forget in this whole process, that actually it's engaging that person with well-being that's going to make the difference between helping them with the behavioral change aspects that really make a difference for the long term. And only then will organizations, I think, start to see the benefit that if they can help the employee actually engage on the pathway that's right for them. And so what's missing today for me is that kind of top layer, that ability for organizations to capture people in a kind of community area and ensure that they are signposted to the right solutions and the right service at the right time. At the moment, I think it might just be a little bit of a wall of noise. Mm-hmm. So certainly from my perspective, the innovation at this moment needs to be less about the point solutions that can support, mental health, financial health, physical health, whatever it might be, and more about how do we bring all this together in a coherent way and think about the experience the employee has. And you can look at that clinically. You could look at that from a preventative behavior change perspective. There's some exciting areas I think that we can really explore over the next little while. And what better opportunity than right now whenever it's front and center.
And you made a comment there, Nick, that really stood out to me. Where you said you need to think about the people, meaning the employees, and coming back to their behaviours and what they want and what they need, and not think about the product first. And I think that we're seeing that much more, with more responsibility being put onto employees and individuals to look after their health and well-being, especially under COVID-19. We're responsible for ourselves, not just the employer. But that whole idea of people being at the heart of well-being and starting with your workers leads me on to think about social well-being and how we've seen a shift coming for a little while. And again, you and I have talked about social well-being, the rise of communities and so on. But it feels like we might be moving into a space where this is now being sped up because of COVID-19 Definitely. And that importance of community and teams and communication. So what are some of the trends that you're seeing on a well-being space with social well-being?
Yeah, it's again, the interpretation of that word is really interesting when I'm out with clients talking to them about what social well-being means. And you're right, absolutely right. It's risen up the agenda suddenly because of the situation we find ourselves. Talking about social well-being probably 2 years ago, but people were so struggling, I think, with the definition of what that really meant. And I think the idea of isolation, as we're all feeling a little bit at the moment, is kind of the catalyst. It's not necessarily what it just means. It's about belonging. It's about purpose sometimes. It's about corporate social responsibility. it's all of these things kind of wrapped together. And I think what's clear is that those organizations today who are enabling people to be part of a community are benefiting more during this period, even where their people maybe aren't working. So if they're on furlough at the moment, making sure they still feel part of the community helps with their well-being, helps them manage this situation through. And so again, for me, that's something that if you look at, say, the social tools that are available from a kind of corporate communications perspective, if you look at the way we could address that within the well-being space specifically and create well-being communities, I think that's an exciting way to go, provided you have the leadership and management backing of that type of approach, because that's when it's most effective, because people will feel that they're being backed to be part of those communities. And certainly I've seen some really good examples today when we were having our roundtable this morning, just examples of how by creating those communities, it's almost becomes that self-fulfilling prophecy of well-being, because it allows people to connect to each other to create the momentum. Whereas what we're used to, corporate world, is a lot of top-down communication. And so enabling that kind of peer-to-peer communication level, I think is so important for the success of any well-being strategy, and therefore it should underpin all the initiatives that are ongoing within the well-being space. And I'm quite excited about what we can do in there.
I agree with you, Nick. It's shifting things and turning it on its head. So thank you for those thoughts. I think that's really useful for employers to take away and just think about that social side as a good place to start with well-being. Thanks very much.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me. Really good to see you again.